First of all, then, the railways. Now, Dr Richard Beeching, the new chairman of British Railways, has spoken for the first time since taking office. Before we hear from the railway doctor himself, let's hear from his passengers. Robert Keyes, our reporter.
British Railways were giving passengers a new deal well before Dr Beeching. Herne Bay to London, for instance, used to take 2 hours, now takes 1 hour, 12 minutes dead.
What do you think of this line these days?
I think it's very good now, very good indeed.
Well, it's a far better journey now. It's been electrified, but unfortunately the train rocks far too much.
In what way does it rock?
You cannot sit and read comfortably because the train rocks you from side to side.
Is that because it's going so fast?
No, I don't think it's the speed of it. I just think that the train seems unevenly balanced.
What about having a cup of coffee? Is that...
It's almost impossible to drink a cup of tea on the train.
But anti-slop lids provided by British Railways do make the coffee technically drinkable. Stations for long-distance passengers too often still reek of the 19th century, but the trains themselves are looking up. On the crack British Railways London to Birmingham Pullman, a sound-insulated, air-conditioned train, even the once notorious British Railways food is now, they say, a thing of the past.
What do you think of food on British Railways as a whole?
As a whole, I don't think much of it. My comments would be rather unprintable. In the ordinary dining car, I certainly wouldn't dream of having any meals at all.
What suggestions would you make for improvement?
Well, if the standard would be at least like in this Pullman car, this is already quite a big improvement to the ordinary food which they're giving. It's better cooked, it's cleaner, it's quite a different service altogether.
But you don't find that on other restaurants?
On the ordinary dining car, certainly not. I wouldn't dream, no wild horses would drag me into it again. I had such a bad experience nearly every time.
It's the commuters on the lines waiting to be modernized that now have most complaints, where stations are still made filthy by steam and carriages, soon to be replaced, are not worth brightening up. These people are caught between two eras and are looking most eagerly to Dr Beeching.
I think for the money he's getting, he should serve us a lot better.
What are your main... Well, he hasn't really started yet, of course, has he? What are your
whether
main
he started or
complaints?
not, whoever is in control.
Yeah.
Well, filthy carriages. Filthy carriages. Trains seem to be late for no reason whatever.
What about the stations?
The stations, well, they're improving. Well, they could be a lot better. I mean, this is a shocking place, isn't it, really? Fenchurch Street, really terrible.
We never know why we're late. They never tell us.
What would you say if he said he could only make the trains nicer if he put the fares up? Would you be in favour of the fares?
Oh, no, I'd rather travel on a dirty train. It was cheaper.
Well, I mean, just look at the carriages. They're absolutely disgusting. They have been on time recently. Actually, they've been a little bit better. Before Christmas, I don't think the trains were anything between 10 minutes and half an hour late every morning. We have quite a long way to travel. And by the time we get up to London, and we have to make allowances for these delays, we have to get up in a fantastic hour.
So you feel pretty angry about it?
I do. We wouldn't mind so much. I think if the fares hadn't have been put up so many times.
Anything to say about the railways?
Shocking.
Yes, we've got great hopes for this electrification, which has been put off and off and off, but we're keeping our fingers crossed. It's a bit black. I mustn't say that word, must I? For £80 a year, it's rather a lot.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to catch my train now. Yes, we must go.
Yes. All right, I'm coming. Goodbye.
This, then, is the mood which has to be faced by the new £24,000 a year chairman of the Transport Commission, ex-ICI director, Dr Beeching. I first asked him if he'd been embarrassed by the publicity over his salary.
Yes, I was a little, simply because I'm not used to it, but I expected it. I thought an important matter of principle was involved. I thought that I ought to be paid as much as I was already getting, and to be paid quite openly.
Do you think that perhaps public service should in itself be regarded as part of the reward for a job of your sort?
I don't think so, under circumstances such as these. This really is a straightforward industrial job. And even if I regarded public service as part of the reward, and my salary was scaled down accordingly, it would mean a corresponding scaling down for many other people in the organisation.
If you'd been offered £10,000 a year less, that would in fact have meant only a few £100 less in your real salary after tax. Would you have accepted it?
I should not, no. I thought it was important that we should open this thing up. I think it's important that I should be able to bring in other people from outside. A few of them, I think, I shall have to attract in by paying higher salaries than are at present common.
Now, as to the railways themselves, do you think they should be made to pay like any commercial concern?
Yes, I do. I think that if it's at all possible, they should be made to pay. I think it's important from everybody's point of view, not least of all, of course, from the employee's point of view.
As part of the necessity to make the railways pay, would it be necessary to raise the fares?
It's not a question to which one can give a simple answer. There will be there is a necessity to raise fares. Fares are cheap. They've risen far less over the years than the cost of living, price indices, far less than wages and salaries.
Why then do you think there are so many complaints about the high fares? Do you think people have just lost touch with the economic facts of life?
That is so. If they're allowed to go on saying that fares are high for a long period of time, they become convinced that they're high. There's been too little emphasis upon the way in which they've lagged behind. And then, of course, there are controls over fares which lead to small increases rather too frequently. And the whole thing tends to give people the impression that fares are high. But it's quite untrue, they're cheap. And this leads to a falsification of the economics of travel. Population and industry will get located in the wrong places if fares are kept too low.
So it does rather look as if they may be going up.
Well, where it is possible to put up fares and increase revenue, when the railways are free to behave as a commercial undertaking, yes. In other cases, we would lose traffic if we pushed up the fares very much. We should lose revenue if we pushed them up very much. Under those circumstances, no.
Isn't there something to be said for the railways being run as a service to the nation rather than on the strict profit and loss basis of a private company?
There is something to be said, but I think it's a doubtful argument. Somebody's got to pay, and if a service of this kind is not supported by those who use it, then it means a tax on the populace in general.
But the whole country uses it in the sense that effectively flowing communications are of an advantage to the nation.
Yes, they are, but to provide anything like the full network of British Railways at the present time and maintain it by a subsidy of some general nature would not, I think, be a sound way of conducting the business.
But isn't the whole point of nationalisation that you don't have to have an ordinary private enterprise sound way of conducting a business?
Oh, yes, it is. But I think that to carry that to the point where you fossilise some particular form of activity would be absurd.
Yes, you're not necessarily fossilising a particular form of activity if you keep a service running even though it's not technically economic in profit and loss terms, though, are you?
No, but you might still have stagecoaches if you did that.
Does the separation of road from rail prevent a proper coordination of transport for the country as a whole?
No, I don't think it does. In fact, I'm sure it need not. The sensible way of achieving coordination is for all parts of the transport system to do those things that they can do best and most economically. And that will be achieved quite effectively if all parts of the transport system price their services with some due regard to their costs. Now, that's not always been true in the past. In fact, it's been far from true. In the case of the railways, we hope to move much closer to that condition in the near future.
Do you see yourself taking over your job as someone who has to initiate a complete radical overhaul of the entire British Railways system, or as someone who has to administer a necessary radical overhaul that's already begun to take place?
A very big effort has already been made in the modernisation plan to bring the physical assets of the system up to a satisfactory modern standard. That's not been completed. Quite a lot is yet to be done. An equal amount, at least, has got to be done in the way of modernising the working of the system. The railway business, of course, if you consider it as a whole, is made up of passenger carrying and freight. Now, freight is the backbone of the business. There's plenty of business there to be had if the type of service that's provided is right. Well, at the moment, the mode of operation of the system has not been adjusted. It wasn't developed for the handling of merchandise. It's really handling, more suited to handling the coal and mineral traffic. So there's a great improvement possible in the quality of service operated to those who have merchandise traffics to offer. And there's a great deal of traffic to be had. So that the key question with regard to freight expansion is, can we modify the system so as to handle merchandise better and get a lot of the business that's going? There is a lot going. And that's something that we shall have to investigate quickly and thoroughly before we shape our future planning.
I should perhaps mention that Dr. Beeching has said that no date has been fixed yet for any increase in fares.